Hello and welcome to watching NDTV. I am Vedant Agarwal. Well, this is our non-stop coverage of the Prime Minister's crucial visit to the US. It's a 3-day power-packed visit. A lot is on agenda, and well, the latest is that the bilateral meeting with US President Joe Biden has begun. In fact, these are latest visuals coming in. Prime Minister Modi at President Joe Biden's residence in Wilmington. The bilateral has already commenced. These are visuals of his motorcade reaching President Biden's residence in Wilmington. This is, of course, the first time that President Biden is hosting, a world leader at his private residence. There you can see the defining visual from this evening, from the first day of the 3-day visit, Prime Minister Modi with President Joe Biden, and he is taking him inside his residence there for that crucial bilateral meeting. A farewell gesture in a sense as well from Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the Quad leaders to President Biden, because this is, of course, his last Quad summit before his term comes to an end. But this certainly is a defining visual from day one of the Prime Minister's visit. Well, he drove down from Philadelphia to Wilmington at the official residence of President Joe Biden. And of course, it's the Biden-Modi camaraderie that has been much talked about by experts and diplomats across the world. It's this bonhomie, perhaps, that's really at the center of India's growing relationship with the US, which has really transformed, particularly in the Biden years. In the past 4 years, we've seen a lot of business being done. But of course, these visuals are extremely important. The bilateral is now underway. What is on agenda? Well, 2 key agreements are likely to be inked. One, of course, relating to the economy, and the other on the India-US drug framework. So that's also going to be extremely crucial. Remember, the last time Prime Minister Modi was in the US, it was a state visit, and President Biden, in fact, also hosted a state dinner for Prime Minister Modi, a rare of the rarest honor. And also, the Prime Minister addressed the Congress as well last time around, and that was the second time that the Prime Minister addressed the Congress, a rare feat again. But extremely important there, the bilateral is now underway, and Prime Minister Narendra Modi has arrived at President Joe Biden's residence in Wilmington. All right. In fact, joining me on the show this evening, I have a very special panel. Harsh Pant, Vice President, Studies and Foreign Policy of ORF. Also, Dr. Bharat Barai, Chairman of US India Community Foundation. Yugendra Gupta is also with us, and Mr. Gunjan Mishra. Thanks all very much for being with us. Dr. Bharat Barai, going across to you. Well, these visuals are extremely important, and also, it's the Modi-Biden camaraderie. All right, I'm being told Dr. Bharat Barai is not with us. Let me go across to you, Yogendra Gupta. Well, as I said, it's the Modi-Biden camaraderie, the bonhomie, that's really been talked about a lot. And it's begun with a hug, and now the bilateral is underway. What are your expectations as far as this meeting is concerned?
See, US and India are the biggest democracies of the world. And any relationship and the cooperation between those two democracies is going to be always welcomed by the world. And that will be both democracies work for the freedom of the speech and the democracies and for the betterment of the humankind and human being. So that's with the meeting of the Modi and Biden, I'm pretty sure that is all what is going to come out of it also.
2 key agreements likely to be inked as well, apart from, of course, the larger issues of security and defense and the larger peace solution that we're looking at very closely. But these 2 agreements, I think that's a lot of interest as far as they are concerned. The India-US drug framework, and also economically, we have seen that our trade has really gone up, particularly in the past 1 or 2 years. There has been a great emphasis on exports and imports. But how do you see these 2 agreements, in a sense, strengthening our bilateral relationship?
Yes, so the economic growth is between the two world's largest democracies. As this grows, economic cooperation, definitely it is going to help the entire economic system in the entire world. So from that perspective, I see this agreements between India and Bharat are going to help both the countries. I, being the US citizen here in the US, I look forward for these agreements and the benefits for both the democracies around it.
Absolutely, and I think something that you mentioned was extremely important, that economically as well, India and US are at a position where we're closer than ever before. Would you say, Yogendra Gupta, also that we've undergone a major transformation, a paradigm shift in the India-US relationship in the Biden years, given the fact that, of course, we've seen so much being done, whether it's the semiconductor plant being set up, whether it's the innovation handshake, as it were, and of course the people-to-people connect that's been much talked about. Do you see it as some sort of a polar shift in the relationship between the two bilateral partners?
Yes, definitely. The bilateral relationships between both the countries, US and America, is developing and growing over the last decades or so in a very positive direction that I feel and then see. And I think this relationship is going to grow further, irrespective of the leadership, uh, the growth
Yes.
on this relationship, because this
So,
is the
so, so
human
that's again an
relationship, like the
important point, that
democracies.
the relationship is only going to go further from here, irrespective of the fact that there is a change of guard in the offing. All my other guests are also now with us. Mr. Harshpant, going across to you now, what are your expectations as far as this bilateral is concerned? Looking at the larger geopolitical context as well, the Prime Minister's visit to Russia and Ukraine are also likely to be brought up in this key bilateral meeting. But go ahead, on top of mind, what are some of the key issues you think would be addressed?
Hi, I think this is certainly one of those visits where Prime Minister Modi would be, in fact, thanking President Biden for his stewardship of this very important relationship over the last 4 years. And I think, in some ways, this is a meeting to consolidate the gains that have been made under President Biden's leadership, and of course, wait for the new president to take over. But largely, I think we have, what we expected is bilaterally, we are looking at strengthening cooperation economically in critical technologies, particularly semiconductors. We are looking at a drug partnership and health partnership to be expanded. So I think there are a number of areas where perhaps we will take our partnership forward, benchmarking them with regard to what has happened in the past, but also then taking this conversation to the Quad level later on, which is going to happen. We will see a more multilateral approach to these questions. And of course, how do you deal with instability in Indo-Pacific, and what perhaps can be done defense-wise, maritime-wise, insofar as the wider multilateral structures are concerned. So I do think that both these dialogues, bilateral dialogue as well as the multilateral or minilateral dialogue at the Quad, is going to shape or is going to be part of the larger structuring of India-US relationship that has grown by leaps and bounds. And perhaps this is one moment to reflect back, as much as to reflect back as to look forward, because I think of the unique role that President Biden has played in this relationship.
Absolutely. And Dr. Bharat Barai, as much as this visit is about the larger issues of security, defense, and of course research and innovation, it's also about that people-to-people connect that's become such a cornerstone of India's diplomacy, particularly when it comes to the US. Why is this diaspora diplomacy such a key part, a cornerstone of India's relationship with the US? I mean, we saw those visuals of the diaspora really rolling out a red carpet for the Prime Minister, something that's become almost a trademark as far as the Prime Minister's visits abroad are concerned.
See, the diaspora is recognizing that after almost 7 decades, India had a Prime Minister who had a vision. He was honest. He did not allow corruption at the higher level. He dedicated himself to growth of India in all the fields, whether it is education, industrialization, agriculture. So he is tirelessly working for last 10 years to bring up India's level. And you can see that now India has become the 5th largest economy in the world and is likely to become the 3rd largest economy. So where do you see a prime minister who is so dedicated to bring up the growth of the country and his vision that by 2047, I want to make India a Viksit Bharat. So people, the diaspora is very much mesmerized by what he is doing for our brothers and sisters in Bangladesh, and we wish that he continues to do it, and the diaspora want to do everything we can. Now you also recognize that there are 5.5 million Indian Americans in USA. So this diaspora, have the voting power. In America, in the elections, you vote by your vote physically, and you also vote by your checkbooks, because the funding of the congressional candidate as well as senators and presidential candidate is done by funding from the common people. So that's what also we have been doing it. And in trying to do that, we are trying to do whatever we can to act as a catalyst for better relationship between the two countries. So the role of diaspora is very important in trying to amalgamate the relationship between the two countries.
Mr. Gunjan Mishra, come in on this. Do you see a kind of a shift also in terms of how the West perceives India? I mean, as we've been discussing, this is also now a relationship between two equals. It's a symbiotic relationship, as many would call it, and it has undergone a major transformation, I would say, in the past 4 to 5 years, in terms of the kind of business, the kind of trade that we've done. And it's gone from, it's gone well beyond just buying defense equipment, say, from the US. It's about co-producing defense equipment. It's about innovation. It's about research. So would you say that there is a shift in terms of how the West, in terms of how America perceives India?
Absolutely, absolutely. There has been a sea change in the approach of United States government and the West, if you see, towards India. They're not only the trading partners now, but they're also getting very tech, a lot of great research together. And I think a lot of tech transfer is being talked about. So I think that's a telltale sign of an equal footing when it comes to the friendship. So because India has been really, it's been in last few decades, I would say, has really come up in terms of its technological prowess. It has impressed the whole world with its ingenuity in technology and software, and it also carries a lot of soft power. And along with that, it also carries a lot of a very big market. So I think all these things coupled together, there has been a realization in West that India can not be, it has to be taken up to the pedestal here. So I think that's where what we see, they're both coming on an equal footing here, and being treated as an equal a partner here, whether it's research, development, tech transfer, or any other technological breakthrough. And even in the trade, as
Yes.
one of our friends said. So I
But-
think, yeah.
Yes, and looking at the larger geopolitical context as well, Harsh Pant, would you see or would you expect Prime Minister's visits to Russia and Ukraine also being brought up in this crucial bilateral meeting, given the fact that it has been said time and again that India and the US are in pole position in a sense to broker peace?
Absolutely, there is no denying that that it would be part of the agenda, and of course, Prime Minister Modi has positioned India very well in terms of reaching out to both Russia and Ukraine in the first few months of his third term. He has had direct contact with both the top leaders in Ukraine and Russia. He knows firsthand now, not through any intermediary, but firsthand direct interface with the two leaderships. He understands perhaps better than most leaders today in the world as to what these two protagonists in this conflict want. And I think that is the message that needs to go out to America, and America would welcome that, because let's remember that no other leader in the world has a direct interface today, from the Western world has a direct interface today with the Russian president. So I think India is in a unique position. India adds value to the negotiations that perhaps would be needed at some point in time to end this conflict. Therefore,
Absolutely.
this would be very much part of the discussion, and this would be not only part of this discussion, but also part of the Quad discussion.
Yes. Dr. Bharat Birai, the last word to you, because of course, as we discuss the larger issues, it's very much about, as I said earlier, people to people connect. What are the expectations of the members of the Indian diaspora as far as this meeting is concerned, this bilateral is concerned? There have been various, concerns. Of course, reverse migration is almost a reality now in the US. We've seen IT professionals coming back home here in India. What are the expectations of the Indian American community there of this meeting?
Well, we hope that the cultural ties between the two countries, economic ties between the two countries, the military ties between the two countries, and the technology ties between the two countries, they continue to grow. We both are large democracies. We are pluralistic countries. we have so many things in common. We respect human rights, we respect freedom, we respect economic opportunities. So,
Sure.
as NRIs who have lived here in this country, we very much wish that this relationship consolidates, goes further, which will be to the great benefit of both countries, especially people in India, where we can bring up their living standards.
I think that's a very important point, which is why this visit is extremely high stakes. Thanks very much, gentlemen, for being with us this evening. This remains one of our top focus stories here on NDTV. For now, a short break. But on the other side, our colleague Vishnu Shom will get us all the action from the ground.
Hello and welcome. I'm Vishnu Shom in Wilmington in Delaware in the United States, where Prime Minister Modi gets set for a one-on-one meeting with the US President Joe Biden. Also a very important meeting of the Quad grouping. He has a huge presence over here. He's very popular among non-resident Indians. There'll be a massive community event in a few days.
We would have never had a chance to get this encounter, and so we're super excited.
There's a lot more opportunities in India, and it's a growing economy. It's a great opportunity. Very excited.
And he'll also be speaking to CEOs and at an important international conference. I'll bring you all the details on the ground right here on NDTV 24/7.